Well, welcome to the workshop. So what we thought would be really cool is to kind of talk about what are some of the best scientifically researched ways to help maintain good habits and keep them going and to change maybe old ones. I am here as more of a bystander. So Victoria's here to make sure that she can help give you some summaries of the book called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits was written by James Clear, and we're going to dig into habits in general. So what our hope is when you get done with this workshop, there should be three main things we want to go with. Number one, what do habit experts talk about? What do the experts say? Number two is how do you maintain these health habits? We're going to go through three ways to really help habits stick. And then lastly, just understanding that practice makes progress, not perfection. Habits, it's probably easy to lose them and really hard to keep them. Good habits, at least that is. Mm-hmm. Really hard to keep. It's really good. It's really easy to keep bad habits. I don't know why that is.
And, this book talks about that too, because it's not about just building good habits. It's about how to break old ones. So, the principles can go either way.
I just have a couple things that I wanted to get your minds right. We always talk about this, that if you listen with the intent of just information, then you're just filling your head with more stuff. Right. And we get more scatter and chatter and we just have more. And we're not here to give you more, but we want to give you more information. We do want to give you information, but we want you to focus less. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the more that we can focus on the one thing, then stress and overwhelm and what we call the paralysis by analysis doesn't happen when we have one thing to do. Right. If you have one thing to do tonight, as soon as you get off this call and there's really no distractions, it's probably going to be easy to do that one thing as long as it's, attainable.
What you're talking about is the 1% rule. Mm-hmm. So it's basically, you don't have to change everything today, but if you change 1% of what you're doing towards whatever goal you're trying to achieve, that means by the end of the year, if you do 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better at the end of the year than when you started. If you want to lose weight, doing 1% better today means at the end of the year, you'll lose 37 pounds.
You would imagine an airplane. If you set off and then you adjusted your course just by that 1 degree, this is kind of the thing we're talking about. If you're in a plane and you adjust it by 1 degree, you're likely to kind of land hundreds of miles away. Mm-hmm. Well, I did that. I asked ChatGPT, the all-knowing God, about this. And I said, if I leave New York and I am off by 1 degree and I was trying to get to LA, so if I'm going from New York to LA and I missed my course by 1 degree, I'm going to end up in San Diego or Santa Barbara, which is at least 40 some miles away.
1 degree.
1 degree. So in the positive, like Victoria said, there's 37 times better when you make changes 1 degree at a time. So we're going to kind of look into that aspect. So just remember that simplicity. Next slide. This is someone that I do is for motivation and spiritual guidance. His name is Matthew Kelly. And a lot of people have said these things, so we'll get into them. But your life changes when your habits change. And simply put, our life is just a combination, that's kind of the next slide here, is really just a combination of events. And so, I'm trying to think who it was. This one of these, where is it? We are what we repeatedly do. That's Aristotle. Right? The Habits of Highly Effective People kind of talks about that as well. Charles Duhigg, they explain how, habits shape our actions. Ultimately, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And this is James Clear who wrote that book. So that's what the experts are saying, hey, habits, they affect us, but 1% at a time. Let's talk a little bit about how do we, what are some of the topics of how to break bad habits? Like, what are some of the suggestions that the book has about habits and, breaking bad habits? Instead of maintaining new healthy habits, let's talk about the bad ones for a second.
Well, I know I can personally give you an example of one. So you make it hard if it's something you want to stop doing. So for me, social media, it creates a lot of extra anxiety that I don't need. What I started doing was on my home screen on my phone, I always had my Facebook app. My Facebook app for the past 3 years has not been on my home screen. It is 3 screens back and in a folder called social media. So I not only have to turn my phone on, I have to swipe 3 times, I have to find the social media folder, and then I can open Facebook. You know how many times I get on Facebook?
Really?
Not a lot.
Not as much.
Because it's not right there in front of me. I made it hard to get to it, so I don't do it as much.
As a side note, if you feel that you do need a detox from technology, there's an app called Freedom that will literally lock you out and you can't get back in unless you get on your computer, put in a password. Like, it can make it really hard. So if you feel like the addiction is so strong, there are ways to like literally not go, oh, well, I know my own code. Now it could like make it that hard. When we do cleanses with people, we talk about detoxifications. We'd always recommend before anyone starts a program of eating cleaner, food elimination, rid your house of anything that you know is going to tempt you and is not on the program.
Yeah.
Just rid the house.
You know, that's a really good point. Because, you know, when I do cleanses, my family does not do them with me.
Which is hard.
Which is very hard. So what I learned to do was I would put fresh fruit and that sort of thing out on the counter for me to see, and all the junk food would get hidden in the cupboard. So as long as I didn't go in the cabinet that it was in, I was fine. Now, if I opened that cabinet, that was another story. But it was removing it from being right in my immediate environment, where I would see the apples or the oranges before I would see the Oreos, which is really good for me because Oreos are my downfall.
How do I maintain new health habits? Well, much like the small changes advocated in the Atomic Habits, chiropractic care also, helps you to develop better habits. There's a few simple ways, to start doing these habits, but just chiropractic, just making it here. Just saying to yourself, I'm going to go to this office to take care of me, to get tuned in so that I start to learn more about me as a habit. Because you could be using that time to do other things. And some of those other things may not be good for you. So starting health habits by just being required to put some energy and effort into things makes big changes. Next slide there. These are the ways that like kind of three main ways that are going to help you to kind of make good habits and help them stick, right?
Right.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
You're the expert.
To form good habits or get rid of the old ones that you don't want, stack them, batch them, and track them. Stacking habits is huge. If you've already got a habit you're doing, you're brushing your teeth every day, and you want to, work on your balance. How about
That's what I teach.
Yeah. While you're brushing your teeth, you work on your balance. Pick one leg up, you're brushing your teeth, other side. So I'm working on my balance because I want my balance to get better, but I'm stacking that with a habit I already do every day, which is brushing my teeth. So it makes it easier to remember to do because you're pairing it with something you already do. Mm-hmm. For me, I hate making my bed. I try to pair that with, I get dressed, I leave my shoes next to the bed, so when I put my shoes on, then I pull my cover up. So stacking habits together, put something you want to start doing with something you already do. It's gonna make it easier for you to remember to keep doing it.
What's the next one?
Next one is batch. So this one is really just about that consistency. It doesn't mean you have to do everything all at once, but you do the small things consistently. I know for care for our new patients, it's that consistency of making sure you're getting here and making your appointments, because every adjustment builds on one another. For me, consistency could just be eating better and making sure. I love sweets. Sweets are my downfall. So what I do consistently is I try to eat my meal, my protein, my veggies, try to limit the carbs as much as possible. And then I end with a fruit because it's something sweet. So I feel like I'm getting that treat, but it's the consistency of doing that. And then I'm not craving sweets all the time. So it's ending that meal with something, an apple. It's amazing how sweet an apple tastes when your taste buds aren't used to eating all this crappy sugar that's filled with all kinds of other stuff. But it's the consistency. It's batching things together.
So it's like just regularly scheduling or having a routine of doing this, then this, then this.
I try to meal prep on Sundays for myself for the whole week.
I was going to say meal prepping seems to me like a big one. Like, okay, it's Sunday. I want to just relax. But if I don't prep and get ready, now I haven't batched that in so that now the week is easier, right? I mean, that's part of a habit is there's times that it's a little uncomfortable to do what needs to be done, but it's a small amount of discomfort for a huge gain.
Yeah, and it takes planning. I love to plan, so that's not hard for me, but some people hate to plan.
But I think the statement, because I love the one-liners, is if you fail to plan,
you plan to fail.
You plan to fail.
Bam.
So batching, and me, if it's like a consistent monthly or biweekly or weekly or daily, you're putting a plan. You know, you have a schedule and a plan.
Right.
And sticking to that is so valuable.
Yeah.
I'd say one thing that I've learned, I don't know what you'd call it. It might be like the negative, trying to make it hard. But what we found is that if you've missed a day of whatever you wanted to do, then you have to commit yourself to doing double the next day.
Right.
And it's kind of painful. It's even more uncomfortable. So stacking something or batching in the sense that, well, I missed that, I got to stick to my schedule and I've got to make it a little bit painful, because there's two ways that supposedly that people do things that motivate them. It's either the carrot, they want a reward, or it's the stick, they don't want the pain, you know, or the failure, the negativity, whatever. So there's two people are in different ways that they respond. But ultimately, having it scheduled and planning and sticking to that schedule makes huge things. But that kind of is, you know, if we look back to a very end point, though, is if you do miss a day, you get up and you do the plan the next day. Because the consistency, which we usually find, is as soon as you failed once, it's easy to just say, throw it out the window. That 1 degree, if you get it 5 times out of the week, you're still at 30 now, and maybe not 37, right?
Right.
So just remember that it's getting that back on.
It comes back to one of my big struggles that we've talked about a lot, is giving yourself grace, which I can give grace to everybody all day long. You ask me to do it to myself once in a whole year, forget about it. And it's giving yourself that grace that, I'm trying to eat healthy, and I went into that Ben & Jerry's pint and I ate 2 bites of ice cream. Well, at least I didn't eat the whole thing, you know, but it's okay. Well, you did that. It tasted good. And now you're satisfied. Tomorrow's a new day. And we're going to try not to do that tomorrow night, you know, and it's just giving yourself that grace, because none of us are perfect.
Remember that perfection is the enemy of success. But stacking things up, keeping them consistent, and lastly is the one is track them. Right.
Yeah. So even just journaling to keep track. I have a Fitbit. So keep track of, you know, my steps that I do a day, if I exercise, that sort of thing. That's how much water I drink. Like, I can track. There's all kinds of apps that you can track stuff on. But if you're not into technology, a simple journal to just write down, I did this many, you know, whatever today, whatever your goal is. Because in a year, you can look back at that and be like, wow, look how far I've come. And maybe you didn't, you know, maybe you want to do 50 push-ups and now you can only do 20, but you started out not being able to do any. So I think you're still pretty good, right?
Absolutely. It's celebrating the small wins too. Celebrate those small wins.
Very much so.
Absolutely. But I think in tracking, a couple of things, like, it's really nice to see how many times you can do something. If you got a calendar at home, mark a little something every time you do that one thing. Make sure that we go back to the one thing. There's a magic in one. If you think like, oh, there's all these habits I need to get rid of, well, just get rid of the one and do it for at least 21 days is what the research would show you. And there's likely that might stick. If it's drinking 64 ounces of water or 120 ounces of water every day, track it and you'll find out you're doing it more than not. It definitely gets rewarding, that dopamine reward, when you track. Most recently, we had a guy who I recommended you get a little bowl of marbles and you move it from one bowl to the other and you start to kind of just our brains love that little bit. Why is Candy Crush so addictive? Because things are moving from one to another.
Right.
I completed that. Because we get a little dopamine rushes every time we complete something that we want to. When we check that box. So when we move a marble, you get a little bit of dopamine. So doing something that shows you that you're progressing is huge and reminds you that you've committed to something. I think that's absolutely huge.
And even have an accountability partner, because we do that for some things too. Just different, having somebody that you can say, hey, I did my journaling for today, like I said I was going to do. Just having that person to hold your feet to the fire a little bit if you're trying to achieve similar goals. And it doesn't even have to be similar goals. It can be completely different goals, but you know, you check in with each other once a day to say, hey, did you do whatever it was you were going to do today?
Practice makes progress, not perfection. Perfection is not possible. Perfection is boring. Let's be imperfect and support each other in the forming of healthy habits. And that's ultimately what we're talking about. You know, we want to be that support. I'd highly suggest 2 things. Number 1 is get the book, Atomic Habits, or listen to it, or however you learn best. The second would be think about joining our book club if you are looking for a little group of support people. I mean, it's the only thing we've got going right now other than a yoga class. If you want support moving and accountability, go to our yoga class at 6:15 on Mondays. It's a great group of people who they keep each other accountable. I mean, every week the same people they're all coming. And if someone someone's not there, they call them.
Yeah.
It's included in the cost of your care. There's no extra cost for the yoga. The book club, there's no extra cost. Victoria runs it graciously, tries to support it, but it's just ways to connect with people. But I'm all into trying to help. If there's people who want accountability in some way, we will figure out a way because I think it's valuable. So those are the things that we have for tonight. Bye, everybody.
Bye.